Well, you know, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
Well, here's the deal. When you've got nothing meaningful to contribute, you just ramble on endlessly. It's a non-stop, never-ending stream of words. The voters don't back the vile women on The View. They're completely disconnected from the vast majority of Americans, and honestly, they should look into getting their message from IM Media. Whoopi Goldberg held court over The View for years, sitting at the top like royalty, cutting off guests, bulldozing opposing views, and presenting her opinions like they were undeniable truths. But in one jaw-dropping moment, her tight control over daytime TV unraveled before our eyes, and it was all thanks to Karoline Leavitt. Nobody saw it coming. The episode kicked off just like any other. Smug laughs, eye rolls, and the typical panel of heads nodding along, all moving in perfect harmony with the show's left-leaning agenda.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
Whoopi, as self-assured as ever, settled back, ready to take control of yet another conversation. Then the topic of wokeness came up, a term that The View practically reveres, a concept they defend like it's the foundation of their very existence. Because honestly, it kind of is. Feeling invincible, Whoopi took the first shot, her trademark smirk making its appearance. She pointed at Karoline and boldly proclaimed, "Without wokeness, you wouldn't even have this job." And just like that, bam, the whole vibe in the room changed instantly. The audience tensed up. Even Joy Behar, who's built an entire career on mocking conservatives, shifted uncomfortably in her chair.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good.
What Whoopi says next is exactly what you'd expect. Predictable and irritating. After all these years as a host, you'd think she'd have a bit more creativity in her banter. But nope, here we are. Let's see what she's got for us this time.
In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you-know-who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are probably biased and they're prejudiced against me.
The atmosphere was charged with tension. Everyone braced themselves for what was coming next, and let's just say Whoopi wasn't prepared for the response she was about to get. This wasn't just a simple disagreement or a playful back and forth. This was Whoopi Goldberg taking a shot at Karoline Leavitt's entire career, her intelligence, her work ethic, dismissing everything she had worked for as just a byproduct of the very ideology she opposed. It was condescending, dismissive, and designed to belittle her completely. Yet, despite the obvious insult, the audience clapped like they were on autopilot. Some even chuckled, but there was a palpable tension in the air, a subtle unease that hinted they knew Whoopi had crossed a line but weren't quite sure if they could acknowledge it. But Karoline didn't flinch. She didn't stumble or search for an escape. She didn't rush to defend herself or scramble for a snappy comeback. No, she did something far more powerful. She smiled, slow and knowing, a smile that said, "Oh, you just made a big mistake." It wasn't cocky or overconfident. It was the smile of someone who knew they had the facts, the evidence, and the composure to flip the situation entirely. And with a calm so unshakable it was almost unnerving, she did exactly that. This was something the audience had never witnessed before. By the way, if you're loving this epic showdown, make sure to like and subscribe because we're about to dig even deeper into this unforgettable moment. Karoline started with hard facts. Cold, undeniable numbers that couldn't be brushed off with a sarcastic remark or a wave of the hand. She detailed government spending reports, showing exactly how taxpayer dollars were being funneled into ludicrously woke programs. Gender studies in Guatemala, Sesame Street adaptations designed to export American social activism globally, and countless other eyebrow-raising initiatives that raised far more questions than answers. With surgical precision, she connected the dots, revealing how wokeness had morphed from a social movement into a political weapon, one that was being used to silence, control, and punish anyone who dared to challenge it. And Whoopi? She wasn't laughing anymore.
The most divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world.
She's incredibly articulate, isn't she? It's honestly baffling that the hosts on The View chose to mock her instead of supporting another woman. It really does reveal a lot about their underlying agenda. Let's see how this plays out. I'm sure Karoline's about to drop some more truth that will be hard for them to ignore.
You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
The woman who had built her career on dominating conversations, shutting down conservative voices, and bulldozing through uncomfortable topics was suddenly on the defensive. Whoopi shifted in her seat, the usual smirk gone, her hands moving as if trying to find something to hold on to. She was accustomed to guests fumbling their words, struggling to keep up with her quick-fire comebacks. But this time, the tables were turned. No matter how much she might have wanted to clap back and steer the conversation back to her favor, she couldn't. Karoline wasn't giving her the chance. In that moment, for the first time in ages, it was clear to everyone watching, Whoopi Goldberg had backed herself into a corner and there was no easy way out. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Opened it again. Still nothing. The words just wouldn't come. The audience, usually so quick to back her up with cheers, sat frozen in an uncomfortable silence. Even the most loyal fans of The View didn't know how to react. The energy in the room had shifted, and for once, no one knew whether they should laugh, clap, or just wait for Whoopi to say something, anything to regain control. Even the camera crew hesitated. Should they zoom in on Whoopi's stunned expression, capturing the moment she realized she had trapped herself, or cut to commercial and hope the viewers wouldn't notice? Whoopi, who was usually so quick with a snide remark or a dismissive gesture, sat stiffly in her chair, clearly wishing she could disappear into it. She had walked straight into a trap, and there was no easy way out. And here's the real question that Karoline had exposed. If wokeness is truly about diversity and inclusion, then why is it that conservative women are the ones being attacked? Why is it that those who preach tolerance turn vicious when confronted with someone who doesn't fall in line with their ideology? In that moment, Whoopi Goldberg realized she had no comeback, no sharp retort, no witty remark to turn the situation around. The silence dragged on, and everyone felt it. Desperate to recover, Joy Behar jumped in, trying to force out a nervous joke in a last-ditch attempt to break the tension. But the damage had already been done. Whoopi had done something that even she had never done before. She had completely unraveled on live television.
Well, you know, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on. Right. That's what you hear.
Yeah.
When they don't have anything to hold you with, nothing to make you think about what they have to say.
It's hard to watch, right? The way her arguments come across as so childish and dismissive, especially when faced with facts she can't easily rebut. It makes you wonder how someone like her continues to have such a strong voice and following. It's frustrating to see someone who so clearly lacks substance still holding onto a platform. Maybe it's the way she's been ingrained in daytime TV culture for so long, but at this point, you'd think she would have been replaced by someone who can bring more thoughtful discussion to the table. It's baffling.
They talk at you, not to you, and that's what she was doing, and she was doing it And it's not new.
No.
But everybody's hip to you all now.
Yeah.
And we are anticipating that you are not prepared. Because you keep saying you going and you preparing when you're on the trail.
And the internet. Oh, the internet absolutely went wild. Memes, reaction clips, endless commentary. Within minutes, Whoopi's stunned reaction was all over social media, replayed on loop. But here's where it gets even more insane. This wasn't the first time Whoopi had gotten herself into hot water by running her mouth. Over the years, she's turned The View into a lawsuit factory, dragging ABC from one controversy to the next. From tone-deaf comments about the Holocaust to her bizarre defenses of questionable figures, Whoopi's been the center of some of the most scandalous moments the show has ever had. But nothing hit ABC harder than the recent wave of defamation lawsuits. First it was Carrie Underwood, then Elon Musk, and now Karoline Leavitt, each lawsuit piling up one after the other, making it harder for ABC to ignore the costs of Whoopi's unchecked commentary. And the worst part? This time, Whoopi couldn't blame anyone else. She had no one to throw under the bus. Let's talk about Carrie Underwood. When Carrie performed at Trump's second swearing-in ceremony, Whoopi and her co-hosts attacked her mercilessly. They didn't just criticize her performance, they went full-on savage, mocking her and claiming she'd ruined her career, even suggesting she was now aligned with hate. The whole segment was a character assassination, and they expected Carrie to just sit back and take it. But Carrie, she did something no one saw coming. Instead of issuing some vague statement or vague tweet, she filed a billion-dollar defamation lawsuit against The View. And when that case finally made it to court, something explosive surfaced. Something that no one, not even Whoopi, was ready for.
That you saw live on this program yesterday. Joy Behar stirring the pot of controversy after saying this about Karoline.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Do you want to take this?
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit, and oh, thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing, because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her own.
It's refreshing to see someone break free from The View's scripted bias. Watching someone confidently stand their ground with facts feels like a win, especially when the usual voices start to unravel. It's satisfying to hear a different perspective, free from the typical agenda.
I mean, you would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Karoline Leavitt before she made that remark. Because Karoline Leavitt worked, I mean, she went to St. Anselm College, she worked for WMUR
Ran
TV.
for Congress?
In New Hampshire, she ran for Congress at the age of 25, put out a very good campaign.
Karoline's stats are impressive, and it's great to see her getting recognition. On the flip side, Whoopi's accomplishments are harder to define these days. While she had a strong start in acting, her recent contributions seem more about stirring controversy than offering meaningful dialogue. Her status on The View feels more about tenure than any real value she's adding now. It's tough to point to anything substantial she's done recently.
She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Pregnant. Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives an... And this, again, this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever, and did a terrific job.
Leaked emails revealed that ABC had intentionally orchestrated the attack on Carrie Underwood to boost ratings. It wasn't an accidental slip. It was a calculated smear campaign designed to create controversy, spark outrage, and keep The View trending. When the truth surfaced, the industry was shaken. ABC executives went into full damage control, forced to settle for a massive undisclosed amount. Behind the scenes, whispers began about whether The View was even worth the trouble anymore. But just when they thought the storm had passed, Elon Musk happened. Whoopi and the hosts spent months portraying Musk as a dangerous figure and spread false claims about Twitter's policies under his ownership. Musk wasn't going to let that slide. He sued, and The View was back in crisis mode. Advertisers, once loyal to the show, started pulling back, tired of the constant scandals. The show's reputation as a ratings goldmine began to tarnish, and big-name sponsors started questioning whether it was worth the risk. As the lawsuits piled up, the cracks in The View grew deeper. The once unstoppable force led by Whoopi Goldberg was now crumbling. Now, with 3 lawsuits and advertisers jumping ship, the network found itself in full panic mode. The View was no longer the asset it once was, and ABC couldn't stop the spiral.
Oh. Yeah. I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation.
She's talking in circles, but Karoline is the one truly standing up. She's the hero here, pushing back against all of this.
The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our...
Whoopi Goldberg's time at The View came to an unexpected end after years of dominating the show and silencing opposing views. The final blow came after her showdown with Karoline Leavitt, which exposed her weakness on live TV. ABC tried to spin it as a break for Whoopi, but it was clear she had been let go. The network was in damage control mode as advertisers pulled their support and loyal fans started questioning the show's future. With Whoopi gone, The View faces a major crossroads. Will they bring in someone like Whoopi to maintain the status quo, or will they finally change direction? Is this the beginning of the end for the show? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.